What if someday a night, what if someday or night a demon were to steal after you into your loneliest loneliness and say to you, this life, as you now live it and have lived it, you will have to live once more and innumerable times more. There will be nothing new in it, but every pain and every joy, every thought and sigh, and everything unutterably small or great in your life will have to return to you, all in the same succession and sequence, even this spider and this moonlight between the trees, and even this moment and I myself. The eternal hourglass of existence is turned upside down again and again, and you with it, speck of dust. Would you not throw yourself down and gnash your teeth and curse the demon who spoke thus? Or have you once experienced a tremendous moment when you would have answered him, you are a god, and never have I heard anything more divine? If this thought gained possession of you, it would change you as you are, or perhaps crush you. The question in each and everything, do you desire this once more and innumerable times more, would lie upon your actions as the greatest weight. Or how well disposed would you have to become to yourself and to life to crave nothing more fervently than this ultimate eternal confirmation and seal? Nietzsche, The Gay Science, Aphorism 341. So this is basically Nietzsche's explanation of the eternal recurrence, right? And in Kundera's The Unbearable Lightness of Being, he explores Nietzsche's concept of eternal recurrence as being the greatest weight, right? He specifically uses, I know he was probably thinking of the greatest weight aphorism when he kind of started to relate it with lightness and weight. The greatest weight being that you're eternally bound to the decisions that you make, and therefore you're totally 100% responsible for your life, right? So in Kundera's The Unbearable Lightness of Being, he explores that aspect. And he claims that since we only have one life to live, we have no way of knowing whether or not our decisions will be good or bad, right? With that said, he quotes an old saying, what happens but once might as well not have happened at all. That is, if we have only one life to live, we might as well not have lived it at all, right? So indeed, if we only have one life to live, and this life is only 70 to 80 years out of the infinite amount of time that the universe has existed or will exist. I mean, I'm not a physicist, I don't know anything about that, but we'll just say that relative to us, it exists an infinite time frame, right? So in that regard, such a life is essentially nothing to this eternity. And this existence is thus as light as a feather. We will inevitably be swept off the ground by the wind of death, and will be floating freely through the air amongst the dust and water vapor. Just totally free. We can be pushed by any gust of wind. It doesn't matter, right? Totally just out in the ocean, getting swept out to sea. And in a world where we are light, where our existence is a mere gust of wind away from eternal inexistence, we are irrevocably and almost unbearably free. It is here where I'm reminded of Sartre's quote, we are condemned to be free. Freedom is a condemnation because we have no idea what our free acting decisions will do to the course of our lives. And additionally, it is ultimately up to us to find the right path through life, to find meaning, and etc. Right? Such an existence is nauseating to Sartre, and that's why he wrote his book Nausea, which I haven't read, but it's basically like this journal type book about this guy who has this nausea about what it's like to be. And this feeling of nausea, I've experienced this several times, mainly in high school, and I'm sure many of you have felt it too, especially if you're coming to a philosophy podcast, where you're kind of just lying in bed, you're staring up at the ceiling at nighttime, and there's like hours are passing, and there's one point where you're like, why the hell do I even exist, right? Like, how is it even possible to exist? It like doesn't even seem like it should be possible, where there's this whole universe of nothingness, and then there's you, who just pops up out of nothing, right? It's really weird. And it just doesn't seem right. It doesn't seem like we should exist. It doesn't seem like we should have consciousness, and the ideas of being an I, of all these things, it just don't, that it doesn't really make sense to us. And it's just weird to be behind these two eyes, and you're always behind these two eyes. You're always hearing things, you're always smelling things, tasting things. And it's so weird to just like having that we just sprung up spontaneously, and that at some point we're gonna die. And it's like all these things are just so crazy, and it makes us dizzy and it makes us confused. And it's really hard though, because there's also the feeling of it, right? There's a feeling of the wonder of being confused as to how we exist. And that you can't really explain that with words. You kind of just gotta, if it happened to you, it happened to you. If it didn't, it didn't. But it's fucking weird. So anyhow, I would be so baffled and confused by the concept of being that I would feel nauseous. I'd feel dizzy. I'd feel afraid. I'd feel uncomfortable. And it's difficult to conceptualize the concept of being, right? It feels, when really deeply thought of, like something that shouldn't happen. But I mean, another thing is that it's weird because being like, in order to know that you're being, you have to be conscious. And almost most of the universe isn't conscious of its existence, right? And that's the weirdest thing, because if you're not conscious of your existence, then it's like, it's weird to even conceptualize it mattering. But like, things that matter are created by humans. I don't know. Being is strange, right?